Good morning, everyone. It is 11 o'clock precisely, so very warm welcome to this Career Puccino. The idea behind Career Puccinos is it's quick 20 minutes with a cup of coffee of your choice. I've got a black coffee today, or tea. I'll let the tea drinkers in, although I am a coffee girl myself. And what we do in these 20 minutes is I go through something that I know that postdocs and early career researchers would really benefit from. So it's a little bit of wisdom, hopefully on a Monday morning to give you a boost for your career. And today we are looking at what is a red thread and how that might manifest itself in our writing. And the way that a red thread can come in is it's a core, it's a theme. It's important to weave all the way through whatever we're writing, but especially if we're thinking about perhaps fellowships and writing for funding. Our application has to really sing that key phrase throughout. So I've got a few slides just to help us with any questions and to prompt some thoughts. But if you have any questions, please do just pop them in the chat. That would be amazing. Otherwise, I'm going to share my screen while I have a slurp of the all-important coffee. Okay, so first of all, let's get where red thread comes from, because it's not an obvious thing. And this is Theseus, he of the Minotaur, and Ariadne gave him a ball of string to make sure that he could get not only all the way in to the labyrinth where the Minotaur was, but importantly, could then find his way out. And where this red thread comes in for us is that whoever is reading our work, and it might be a paper that people are reading in a journal, it might be a funding application, it might just be an abstract. We need to guide them through and highlight what is the key theme throughout our writing. Every point of our writing must point back to where's the theme, what's important. And I'm going to highlight two books today that I found really helpful, both of which are actually aimed at more marketing, but fantastic when it comes to thinking of what is the key theme. So I've got Find Your Red Thread by Tamsin Webster and Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. Both two books, as I say, aimed at marketing, but are very much, I'm a big fan of learning from other disciplines and being able to fold that into the research mix. So where there's money, there's usually a lot of research and effort goes into how to write well. Marketing is one of those. And if we can learn lessons from business and apply them to our scientific research, so much the better. So this is really where this idea of red thread comes in. Another great book by Stephen Pressfield is he has written non-fiction, fiction, screenplays, novel, all sorts of things. And his book is called Nobody Wants to Read Your Word that starts with an S, ends in a T, is 4 letters. And again, he comes back to this idea of what is your theme? The theme must be the red thread. Every film that we watch, every story that we read has a theme. So imagine your favourite story. What's the theme? What does it always come back to? And you can hear that in the music. If a well-written movie theme track is exactly that. It revisits the same themes over and over. So what's our theme? Are we doing that in our writing? Can we hear that music playing as we go along? If we're looking at grants or fellowships, then we have our 3 Ps to fold into the mix. So these need to be woven throughout. So the 3 Ps are the person, that's you, or the people, if it's a grant with lots of people. The project, so why is it timely, why is it important, why is it must be funded above all others? And then the place. So why have you chosen to do that particular research in the place? For a fellowship, we really do need to have that excellence of all 3 thread through. So that part of that is our theme. And every single sentence is gold dust on an application. Marie Curie, you have 10 pages to explain yourself. Fellowship I was looking at this morning, you had 3 pages to describe your research. Whatever it is, there is never quite enough to tell the world how excellent we are. So if every sentence is gold dust on that application, does every sentence communicate the theme? Does it tell us about the excellence of the project, the place, or the person? And we can combine these 2 together. So if we're talking about our methodology, for instance, there is a reason why we have put in this proposal. It's probably because we are in the right place at the right time to capitalize on our previous excellence. So we might have written some software which we can now deploy in a new and novel way. That's the project. But it wouldn't happen without us. So we've got those threads going through. The other thread that I think is really helpful is the thread of what is this grant about? What is this paper about? What is this abstract about? So making sure that that is clear. Quite often people do a big dive, an absolute massive dive into the science straight off. Your panel is usually a broad mix. Your readers of a journal are a broad mix. They might be quite niched within your discipline, but they won't have your experience. So being able to articulate this paper is about, this grant is about in one clear sentence, and revisiting that and making sure that every single section highlights that. So the red threads of person, project, place, weaving through, but also does everything really point to your research writing being about this one thing. Quite often we try and bring other things or other experiences into our writing, and that can confuse the issue. So, if we have a big description of the state of the art, but some of those things aren't strictly relevant to the project in hand, it can confuse and derail our readers' thoughts. They are reading these really quickly. We need to keep them on those threads. We need to constantly tell them, this is important, this is excellent research, this is why it needs being done by me in this place. So keeping those threads going. So making sure that we don't put in extraneous information, and that we also answer any questions. So there's nothing worse than watching a movie and getting to the end and going, oh, I still don't know about that, and I still don't know about that. Unanswered questions leave us unsettled. Now, that is fine if there is a sequel or it's a deliberate cliffhanger, but chances are with your research writing, we don't get that second opportunity. We're applying for funding now. To make sure that you've answered any questions, especially risks mitigation. It is perfectly legitimate and, in fact, essential to put those in. So thinking about the worst reviewer in the world, so reviewer 2, what are they going to pick at? Make sure you've answered all the questions and kept them on track. I found this beautiful illustration of a red thread, and thinking how we could perhaps use it for our research. So they're talking about lung cancer here, but thinking about linking all these disparate parts into one continuous thing. You might have a varied background as a researcher. Quite often we do. And, research comes at the new points between disciplines, between experiences. So can you thread those bits together so that it's obvious why you are ready now to take on this project, to take on this in this place? Why are you the right person? And it might be that you've got a thread of computer programming, a thread of environmental design. I'm trying to think of lots of different things that come together that mean this project is perfect for you. So I particularly like this example, but that it can be used to join things together. And again, those are unanswered questions. If you had a first degree in ancient history and then a PhD in genomics, I, as a reviewer, are going to have a few questions there. Stitch it together for me. Use the thread to bind everything together and tell a coherent story. That is what we're doing. We're telling a story. And again, this comes back to the idea of Don Miller and his story brand, is we are telling a story, thinking about what your reviewers really want, what they value, and what struggles they might have. And I'll tell you, one of the struggles is that they've got all these applications to read in very little time. They're busy academics, just like yourself. Just going to have a swig of coffee. Oh, much needed this morning. Okay. The first point here is thinking, in trying to appeal to everyone, you absolutely don't appeal to anyone. Writing something that is so general, no one's particularly interested, so it has to be pitched at a level that entices your audience to read it. So thinking very carefully who your audience are and writing the story for them. Now, it might be a general science panel, but that's all right. You know where to start with. You can start general science and then build up. It might be a layperson summary, in which case, imagine your auntie, providing she's not a scientist, and talk and write as if you were talking to her. Imagine the audience. Quite often in grants, people take us on such a deep dive. I'm not going to have your 10 years experience in the field. Even if I share the same sort of scientific discipline, I've got 10 years experience in my own niche. So make sure you don't take us on too deep a dive. We all will get lost, and then we will struggle, and then we won't want to fund you. And thinking again, what's that storyline? What is the key theme throughout? That is the important thing to keep. It's almost like a safety valve that you're holding on to, so that even if it does get a bit complicated, you can come back to, and this is what this project is about. So always make sure that you regroup in your applications. Tamsin Webster, in this excellent book, speaks about a 3-act story, and I think we're all very familiar with these. So, kind of every blockbuster largely is that, kind of we have a setup, and that is, kind of the, average day in the life of whoever it might be. So, I'm a big fantasy person, so, boy working in the Smiths, he's just, getting on with his life, and then something happens. There is some conflict. The wizard then comes into town and decides to offer him a place on a quest. They then go on a long journey full of many tribulations, but there is a resolution. There is a happy ever after, or a sad ever after, but there is a resolution. How does this manifest itself in grant applications? So taking the Young Research Talents example, which is a scheme from Norway, but pretty much all schemes would apply. You've got the excellence section. So you've got the state of the art. Absolutely. So what is going on at the minute? And don't forget your own contribution to the state of the art. Emphasize you in this. It is a personal story you are telling. You then, in the rest of the excellence section, you have to talk about beyond the state of the art, so BSOA. And where we come on to beyond state of the art is where the project is, where the opportunity is. It might not necessarily be a conflict, but suddenly you're in the right place with the right idea, in the right environment for something to happen. So you need to communicate that. You've got the skills and experiences, knowledge. It might be that you're partnering with someone who's just discovered something, and that's your host organization. And perhaps the technology now allows you to take this forward. But you have to tell us why we can go beyond the state of the art, and then take us on a description of what that might look like. The resolution really comes in this impact statement. And most grants have a impact or, outputs. At some point there will be that. And even if there isn't, you can hint at that in your methodology. So one of the fellowships I was looking at this morning didn't have an impact section, but the applicant had rounded it off with what might happen next. That resolution is important, especially for a fellowship. I'm putting in 3 years money into you as a person, as a researcher. What am I going to get out? I don't want that to just vaporize at the end of 3 years and that to be a standalone bit of science that was great, but we're done. What's the next bit? What's the resolution? The resolution, hopefully, is that I've trained you up as a potential research leader. You're now going on to apply to this grant, whatever it might be next. I've put some money in, you've grown like a seed into a beautiful plant, and now you're ready to be a research leader in your own right. So don't forget the personal impact of this, not just the papers that come out of it, or perhaps talking at a conference. The personal impact, again, fits that story, that constant thread of you throughout. But also make sure that you answer the theme. So if the theme is, to investigate hedgehog genomics, make sure that you've given us a resolution. So by the end of this project, we will have the best global picture of hedgehog genomics that's possible. Not quite sure why I was thinking of hedgehogs, but, they're cute. And I'm going to end on this picture, and if there are any questions, I'll come on to those. But it is like Hansel and Gretel. That's the story that you're telling. Hopefully your trail is a bit more long-lasting than breadcrumbs, because we know that the birds ate the breadcrumbs. Pebbles were a much better bet. But they had a thread to always guide them. Like Theseus in the labyrinth, they had a thread to guide them. Have you made sure that you've got that thread throughout? And for grant applications, you need what's it about? Coming back to that. But you also need the 3 Ps. You need person, project, place. So have you emphasised why you are great in the methodology section? Have you emphasised why the project fits into the host institution section? So everything weaves together. It's not just in little silos, which makes it harder to read. You are telling a story. Hopefully it doesn't have a wicked witch. It has some fantastic science at the end, but that is what you are doing. So thinking about coming back to those stories you knew as a kid and updating them for the excellent researcher that you are. If you've enjoyed today, there are a few ways that I can help you build on this or build on other ideas. So I have some online courses for researchers, which you will find out about through my newsletter. But I also work one-on-one with people, and that's the very favoritist bit of my job, is working in partnership with people, helping them deliver research proposals, or it might be writing a job application to escape academia. I do all sorts of things, but working one-on-one is one of my very favourites. So you've got my email. So at any point you think that might be right for you, then just give us an email. Always happy to have a chat. I'm going to wait and just see if there are any questions. Just let me know. Just pop them into the chat. And if not, I can wish you a very, very happy Monday.